It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, now for some entertainment, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, the Democrats seem to be wanting to call Elon Musk co-president.
Right.
And this is why there isn't a democracy right now, because Trump has a co-president. Here's Senator Britt yesterday addressing that to Democrats.
Conversations about a co-president, referencing Elon Musk, referencing the work that Doge is doing. I think it's important to remember that President Trump ran on this. I mean, he said, we're going to look for wasteful spending across our government. We're $36 trillion in debt, y'all. That's not only fiscally irresponsible, it is actually morally irresponsible. And the difference in this administration and the last administration is that President Trump is actually the final arbiter. And it's interesting that none of you had anything to say over the last 4 years when it is clear that our commander-in-chief was not in command. And if we're going to use the term co-president, then let's go back and say co-president Jake Sullivan, co-president Ron Klain, co-president Jill Biden. I mean, it seems that some of the biggest decisions were made during the president's afternoon nap time conversation.
Oh, wow. Ms. Levitt pointing out something that we pointed out in recent days and said in recent days, and that was, nobody was in charge for the last 4 years.
That was Senator Britt.
I'm sorry, Senator Britt.
Yeah.
And that nobody's been in charge for the last 4 years. And they got used to that. They got used to each of them having decision-making roles at all those levels that she pointed out, whether it was Jake or Jill or Jake and Jill went up a hill. It was I won't finish that one.
No, we're not going to go there.
It's
not going to go there.
It is where they really became comfortable. Nobody was ranting about it. Nobody was complaining about it until the Wall Street Journal in December, in Biden's final days, did that piece, and everyone pretended in the liberal media to not know about it. Well, we don't know. Did we underreport it? I don't know. Joe Scarborough, Mr. F you if you can't handle the truth, then ends up saying, I don't know how I missed it.
What I like, though, is how the average person views a Democrat saying that Elon Musk is co-president, and therefore we don't have a democracy because nobody elected Elon Musk.
Right.
Yeah. What they're trying to get you to buy into. Understand this now. Let's make this very simple. For 8 years, Trump has been Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
Trump has been a dictator. Democrats have spent hours, days, months, years, decades, centuries. Okay, maybe I'm going too far. Trying to convince you that Trump is a dictator, a murderous dictator, a Hitler-like dictator who will kill 6 million people. And this person who is Hitler reincarnated, who would commit genocide against his own citizens, decides he doesn't have the confidence to be a sole dictator and must share his dictatorship, even though it is an elected dictatorship.
Yeah.
He needs to share his dictatorship with another person.
Well, it's tag team fascists. That's basically what.
Tag team fascists. I like that.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get in the ring together.
It's tag team fascism. That's what it is. I heard the guy say it on the radio.
That's what they want you to believe. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. Hey, look, the dictator is giving power to somebody else. No, let us correct you. The power still lies in the dictator's hands. So you admit it.
But it's so stupid. Wait a minute. They kept saying he's Hitler, but so he wants to share his presidency. We don't believe it.
Right.
Because you'd have to believe that Trump, number one, we're throwing out the Hitler thing because that's their argument, so we're defeating their argument.
Of course.
But the other argument would be Trump does not have confidence in himself to be president.
Right, yeah. Yeah, after all that's been thrown at him, he finally goes, nah, it wasn't. This is what I fought for, is to hand it over to somebody else. Right. And I'm thinking about taking my name off of all those buildings. Oh, my God.
I'm expecting Mark Cuban to come out and say, well, because remember, Mark Cuban said he was lazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's lazy, so he wants somebody else to do all the work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, okay.
Oh, my God, did you Boy, I'm telling you. Can we break for sports a little bit, but it's about Mark Cuban?
Yeah. The implosion of the Mavs or just Mark Cuban?
One and the same, sort of.
It pretty much is, right?
You know,
right now.
Did you see where people were coming up to him at the game the other day and screaming at him?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that hasn't been mentioned at all, remember, well, it has been mentioned. It has been, but not enough. Remember when he sold the Mavericks, he said he was still in charge of basketball operations.
Right.
He was not telling the fans the truth.
Clearly. Because this was the move of moves.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Trading Luka?
Trading Luka for, yeah.
And then he comes out and says, what was it, the day after or maybe the following day after that he was against it, but he wasn't able to act in time, basically saying that the GM is the one that made the move there, that he wasn't for making the move. Well, that demonstrates that you weren't in charge of operations.
Yeah, some writers have picked up on that, saying he said he was in charge.
Right.
Clearly he wasn't. Was he telling us the truth back then? But people were, did you see? People got kicked out of the game. They had, what do they call it? The karaoke camera, whatever it is. And it went upon this one guy, this pretty big guy. And, he went, basically fire the GM. And they could, I don't know if you can hear it or not. It sounded like he just mouthed it from the description. And they kicked him out. They had security come and kick the place is booing. But the fact is, I looked at it, looked like it was packed.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. It's like the whole world was going to remember, we're going to boycott the Super Bowl.
Right.
We're sick and tired of this. We're not doing anything about it.
Right.
We're sick and tired. We're not going to watch it. Biggest audience ever for the Super Bowl.
Right.
And then it's like, we're sick and tired. This is it. Last straw. Well, it looks like the place is packed. What do they care? If you go, even though they make decisions that you think will hurt the product that you're paying for and you still buy the product, well, then what do you expect?
Right.
I did see that some people tried to get their season tickets canceled or whatever, but this is actually not a sports thing. It was just a Cuban thing.
Yeah.
Because he's like...
It's been crazy. I mean, the morning after it was announced, all the warnings came out locally, avoid downtown because of the protests, which we thought were going to be about immigration. It was about the Mavericks.
So that's what happened. So I saw, stay away from downtown. So that afternoon, I go to the local news, big protest downtown. I'm like, oh, wow, really?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, Mavs fans, Luka. Like, that looks like one of the biggest protests,
right,
of a domestic issue besides illegal immigration that I've seen in downtown in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
So, but no, I had to bring up Cuban because remember when he said, "Oh, Trump's lazy,"
Yeah,
and but
they make every excuse in the book.
But think about it, that there's either two arguments: Trump, the dictator, doesn't wish to be a dictator, or Trump is not a dictator, and he's simply a very mild and meek and unconfident leader who needs the help of somebody else because he needs a co-president because he can't handle it by himself. Because, remember they tried to say he's also old?
Yeah, right.
God, they've thrown everything. Nothing, nothing works. But we could have, By the way, we could advise them. Democrats, before you want to do something, come to Eric and I. Pay us what? $1,000?
1,000.
And well, just because anybody can do it. I mean, it's a regular fee for anybody, not just for the Democratic Party. But it can be for the Democratic Party. It would be $1 million though for that. And just simply say, guys, do you think this can work? Because anything you're trying isn't working. Any argument you have leaves out, omits things that make it obvious to people that you're BSing them. And that's one thing. Do you think after the last 4 years of the lying by omission, the gaslighting, that the type of argument that Democrats are using, which is not to address the issue, but cut around the edges on things that have nothing to do with the issues to deflect, is now picked up by the public because they've been BS for so long and they sense it immediately and it's a turnoff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, the sensibilities have changed, I think, politically in every way when it comes to the rhetoric. I think people, it's like hearing the same kind of joke over and over again. I've often observed how, like, comedy changes, right, over the years. Nobody does the, hey, take my wife, please thing, right? Now it's a more sophisticated conversational kind of approach on stage. And if you think about the sensibilities of hearing whatever it is we're being fed, and today it's everything. Well, the lies went on for the longest time. And people realized when reality, they were facing reality, inflation, higher crime, broken border, the liberal transgender movement wanting to take their girls off of the team and put boys in girls' locker rooms. All of these things they were facing had them searching for the truth even harder, the average American. And now the lies are easy because they've been telling the same lies in the same manner, and they're not going to change. They're going to keep doing that. That's their method. That's their MO. They're not going to change how they operate. And I think it's great. I think it's because the only advice I could really give to the Democrats is own it. Because you're not going to change, and I wouldn't expect you to fake it. Kamala tried that. Didn't work for her. She's not going to build a wall. She's not tougher on the border than Donald Trump. It's just it. And so if you're going to be honest with them, with the American people, you have to own it and tell people exactly what you think, that you think children should be able to decide for themselves if they're going to have genital mutilation surgery, if you believe that open borders is better than enforcing our border, that you believe inflation's fine, we need to spend even more money. All of these things that you believe, you need to own.
When I hear them argue, and you may get the same reaction, as soon as here's the Democrats on this, and they start talking, and the first thing I say is they're not addressing the issue.
Right.
Now, that has been burned into me because of the last 4 years, especially with the gaslighting, with especially Karine Jean-Pierre, and I can't say Biden because he was hardly ever speaking,
Right.
but any surrogate for him, which the majority was either Karine Jean-Pierre or I can't remember his name now. Oh, the other guy.
Jake Sullivan or
No. The from the Pentagon. He mostly did national security stuff. Kirby,
Mm-hmm.
John Kirby.
Yeah.
They absolutely lied and gaslighted all the time,
Yeah.
but they did it by omission. I'm talking about not the substance or the actual issue, but the format of how they answer the question, that it's almost a reaction from me, which is, oh, you're avoiding the question. You're not answering the question. You're actually not addressing the issue at hand. You're deflecting over here. And if it's become such a habit that I immediately see it and then I go, okay, what's their deflection? I wonder if the public understands that now, because it's been the same format the last 4 years, and the gaslighting was so outrageous that they just pick up on it and automatically tune it out.
Well, no, I think it is. I think the American people are seeing that. All right, they've been doing it this way. They've been acting in this manner and lying in this manner. It's kind of like watching adolescents, right? They come up with a clever way to hide something. And then you find their hiding space or whatever, however they're hiding it. And then you realize, oh, okay, this is how they're going to be. You learn these things and your sensibility changes. And I think the American people are, to a large extent, waking up to how the left has been acting for a long, long time.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Winter weather returns this week. In fact, as USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey notes,
we already have 2 back-to-back winter storms underway, one of them primarily affecting the mid-Atlantic, and the second one is already getting organized across the central Great Plains. Those 2 systems are going to be a big weather story over the next couple of days,
producing parallel stripes of heavy snows through the midweek period.
The initial system a little further to the south and east, the trailing system a little further to the north and west.
Also, cold air comparable to last month's Arctic blast has been reported in the northern plains.
Tuesday, February 11th, we are seeing widespread minus 10 to minus 30 degree readings across Montana and the Dakotas, with sub-zero temperatures extending into the upper Midwest. That may be the coldest day. As we go through the rest of the week, it is going to stay very cold across the northern plains and the upper Midwest, but we may have reached our peak on that event.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. You know, it's interesting. We had the call yesterday with one of our great listeners, and she said, you know, the Democrats are all out there screaming, where are the Republicans? And we said, well, they want the Democrats to be screaming. They're promoting it. And I said, the Republicans have been out there, and they were in full force yesterday. Here's Speaker Johnson.
I met with Elon yesterday about this to get an update. And to me, it's very exciting what they're able to do, because what Elon and the Doge effort is doing right now is what Congress has been unable to do in recent years, because the agencies have hidden some of this from us. You know, there's a lot of oversight activity that goes on around here all the time, you all know. But when duly elected representatives of the people request information to find all of these abuses and it's not turned over to us, what it takes is an actual audit of the systems and the files themselves that are often hidden from Congress. That's what you're seeing right now. And that's why this is so exciting. They're uncovering things that we have known intuitively have been there, but we couldn't prove it. Now the proof is being provided, and no one can argue the counter to that. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. And I think the courts should take a step back and allow these processes to play out. What we're doing is good and right for the American people. What Doge is doing is making sure that your taxpayer dollars, all of us, are spent in the way that they're intended to be spent, and that they're in America's interest, and they're financially responsible with the precious taxpayers' money. We have a $36 trillion federal debt, and we have got to get a hold of these things. You're going to see it reflected in the reconciliation package that comes forward. You're going to see it reflected in appropriations as we go forward, and you're going to see it in these efforts to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. And we think the final number on that is going to be substantial and a game changer.
All right. That was one of the best things that was said yesterday. We have oversight. They won't cooperate with us.
Well,
you think about
we've seen that play out how many times?
Right. You think about the last administration.
Yeah.
We've tried to get information. You won't give it to us.
Right.
They have to go to court,
over
do
and
everything.
over again.
It's like, but even when Trump was president the first time, these agencies would refuse.
Right.
Well, how do you solve that? You have your boss do it.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Good morning. All right. You want the perfect answer?
All right.
This is a reporter asking Tom Homan from ICE. Is the president happy with the number of arrests? All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
Mr. Homan, is the president happy with the number of arrests?
I'm not.
There you go.
I love that answer. Forget about the president. I'm not. I'm not satisfied.
Zero fat in that answer.
Yeah, I know.
I love it.
All right, I just want to we want to walk everybody through this here because this is really, really interesting. And this goes back to the judge saying that the Treasury Department, the Treasury Secretary, and the president can't control the Treasury Department. You know, how did this all come to be? And wonderful article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's too long to read, but just the important points to lay out from the Washington Examiner, Byron York. The Lawfare Gang Strikes Again. But the Lawfare Gang is, again, a combination of attorney generals, in this case, Democrat attorney generals, and a judge. You know, the one thing that the Democrats tried to sell us over and over again is the only crooks that exist out there would be Trump. You know, Trump or a Republican politician, that's the only crooks. The only corrupt people are Republican politicians is what they tried to tell you. Well, after the lawfare with the president, the American public now realizes that the corruption infects district attorneys and judges.
Yeah, right.
And it's obvious because some of the biggest critics of those judges are Democrats. And long Democrats. Dershowitz, been a liberal his whole life, and very liberal his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Jonathan Turley. These judges are corrupt in what they're doing. And they noted that in the beginning of this that Attorney General James of New York, they admitted they did not know whether there had been any unauthorized disclosure of people's private information and sensitive data. But they read some articles suggesting it could happen. That was enough for Letitia James. Joining the suit were the attorney generals from 19 states, with few exceptions. That's pretty much all the states won by former Vice President Kamala Harris last November, now going to war against the winner of the election. Last Friday, James and company asked a judge in New York, that's Judge Egelmeyer, to issue a emergency temporary restraining order to stop Trump-designated special government employee Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency team from looking into the payment practices of the Treasury Department. The Doge Group was granted access to super-sensitive Treasury payment system according to the request. Notably, one member spent several days with an administrator privilege access with the ability to override code. That was the allegation. James and her colleagues said such access, they added, endangered the government's payments to people for Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, child tax credits, federal employee wages, and federal tax refunds. The James request listed 3 sources for the allegation. One was Schumer in a speech. The second was a post on Blue Sky from Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, a Democrat. And the third was from an article in Wired magazine. Of course, the Trump administration officials, including the Treasury Secretary, said that didn't happen. None of that happened at all. They strongly argued that the various payments to people had not only not been interfered with, but were not in any danger. The Doge scare, they said, was Democrat and media overreactions to a much-needed critical review of federal spending. James did one more thing. She asked the judge to issue a restraining order without even hearing from the administration, and he granted it. You never heard the other argument.
Right.
Only the one argument. The judge apparently found Schumer's speech, Wyden's Blue Sky Post, and the Wired article extremely persuasive. In the space of a few short hours, he decided that the Trump administration must immediately be stopped. James and company filed a request at 9:30 p.m. on Friday, issued the restraining order at 1 a.m. Saturday. His decision raised questions and eyebrows. He ruled that Trump, the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Secretary were restrained from granting access to any Treasury Department payment record, payment systems, or any other data systems maintained by the Treasury Department, other than to civil servants with the need to access with need for access to perform their job duties. He then forbid Trump, the Treasury Department, and the Treasury Secretary from granting access to records to all political appointees, special government employees, government employees detailed from an agency outside of the Treasury Department. Why did the judge decree that some civil servants be given access to the Treasury system, but not political appointees? On the face, that would apply to the Treasury Secretary and his top aides, all appointed by Trump. In other words, all the people now running the Treasury Department couldn't have access to Treasury Department records.
Right.
Depending on how you count political appointees, the ban applies to at least the top 35 people in the Treasury Department and possibly more. This is the important part. The Trump side finally got to respond on Sunday night. This is what they said, quote, "This is not and cannot be a basis for distinguishing between civil servants and political employees. Political appointees. Basic democratic accountability requires that every executive agency's work be supervised by politically accountable leadership who ultimately answer to the president. A federal court consistent with the separation of powers cannot insulate any portion of that work from the specter of political accountability. No court can issue an injunction that directly severs the clear line of supervision that Article 2 requires, because the order on its face draws an impermissible and anti-constitutional distinction. It should be dissolved immediately." And then he writes, because that was pretty straightforward to me.
Right, yeah.
And then Byron York writes, "It's not that complicated." Authority in the executive branch ultimately has to derive from an election.
Right.
The executive branch is the only branch of government headed by a single person, the president.
Right.
The president is elected and then appoints people to run the executive branch. If there are civil servants who have authority denied to the president's representatives, then who is in charge of the executive branch?
Right.
One might ask that question of the judge, who appears to think that some functions of the executive branch are so sensitive they can only be performed by civil servants and not by political appointees, including the Treasury Secretary and his deputies. Whatever the weakness of the judge's thinking, the administration made clear in its response that it was obeying the judge's order. To be clear, notwithstanding the order's defects, defendants are in compliance with it. Defendants have taken what they believe is all necessary steps to comply with the court's order. I mean, Eric, this is simple stuff. This is not complicated. This judge is so incredibly out of bounds. But again, it's not a surprise.
No, it's the only thing they have is they have to act in this way, which is unconstitutional, because, and again, you have to go back to what they're accusing Trump of. Wow, this is unconstitutional. And so what do? They are the ones that actually act in an unconstitutional way, in this case, blocking the executive power. You can't have a situation where the courts just come in and decide, and this is it. You get these judges who decide they're going to be in control of the executive power. That doesn't, then tell me what power they couldn't take away from the president.
Right.
If they could do this.
Then who runs the executive branch?
Right. Because this isn't a Supreme Court decision. This is a judge saying, boom, you can't do this. This isn't interpretation of the executive branch and the powers afforded by the Constitution. This is them blocking it because they say so, because it's Trump.
Yeah, that's it. There is no reason.
There is no reason.
Right.
It's Trump. We don't want him to have this power. We're going to block him at every turn. And that's what's going on here. And it's absolutely stupid.
Yeah. So what I expect as a defense from Democrats today is more cursing.
Yep. Right.
Maybe the F word isn't enough. Maybe add the M in front of the F, and then they'll be emotionally satisfied for the day. They
Right,
won't have
yeah.
accomplished anything.
Right. Mm.
Let's pick out all the words. All right, Democrats are holding a meeting today. All right, does anybody have the list of George Carlin's words you can't say on TV?
Right.
We need every single one of them here.
Right. And the new ones that we made up. Because, and there will be more judges who look to block him at every turn. This is what they want. They see things getting done. Well, they're on the bench. They believe they're on the bench to be an activist. And that's what they're doing. And this needs to be turned over very quickly.
Yeah, I guess the next hearing is Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It's indefensible by the judge.
Yeah,
absolutely indefensible.
Right.
I mean,
there's zero reason for this.
There is no, and that's why you've got the cursing. That's why you've got the co-president thing. Anything, but when you think about it, as you and I've said, they're saying that the president and Elon Musk, who heads a defense contractor that already has top secret clearance,
right,
which means he knows top secrets and isn't abusing it.
Right.
Elon Musk.
Right.
He's not. It's a defense contractor involved in all levels of defense of the United States, that the president of the United States appointing someone already who has probably a ton of different clearances.
Yeah.
That he and the Treasury Secretary, who's head of that department, cannot have anything to do until the judge tells them with the payment system of the Treasury Department.
Right.
And Trump is the anti-democratic person.
They believed for the last 4 years, each of them had their own power, including some of these judges, I'm convinced, that will decide, will run the government, because Biden wasn't running it. Everybody knows that. So everybody felt like they were in control in their own way, and they were running it. Well, they were. This is how they got along over the last 4 years, and it's scary to think about. And they don't want a president who's actually in control, certainly doing or undoing their entire agenda.
Yeah, I can't see this going. I can't see this going too long.
No, I can't either.
It's so obviously unconstitutional. And again, it's more lawfare. And all they're doing is and this is a thing. They thought they convinced the American public that only Republican politicians commit crimes.
Right.
Only that Republican politicians are corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
The American public learned with the lawfare against Trump. Nope. DAs and judges are also corrupt.
Right. This is why they lost.
They will not follow the law. They will not follow the Constitution. And they're still trying to convince the American public that only Trump can be corrupt.
Yep. This is part of why they lost. And they don't see it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let me see. Okay, Insecure Musk is the lead headline in the Drudge Report.
Insecure Musk.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know. Yeah. I guess I'll have to dust off the Drudge Report and take a look at that. I think you have a situation right now where they're really not flinching. I mean, technically, these little stops in the road that the tapping of the brakes that these judges are doing are really just that. It's only going to slow it for a matter of days. They're going to jump in front of everything, and they're just going to create whatever chaos they can. They're acting like children, but ultimately, Trump will win.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.